Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. So, continuing with Holy Mother's life, I'll start here. Now that Sri Ramakrishna is revered as a prophet and an avatar and is worshipped in many places, people come to her for her darshan. This is Mother in Jairambati and in Calcutta. Even in that village, which is situated in an out-of-the-way place, the Holy Mother is now regarded by many devotees as the Mother of the universe. Oh, this is about that song that was sung by the wandering minstrel. And so it drew a parallel between her and Parvati when Shiva was seen as a ne'er-do-well and so on. The song drew tears from the eyes of the listeners as it aptly applied to and conjured up a vision of the early life of Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Sharadamani. I heard from Girish Ghosh that for over an hour, all remained spellbound and their eyes glistened with tears. But those happy days came to an end. Holy Mother used to travel back and forth between her Calcutta and Jairambati residences. One day we heard that Mother was leaving for Jairambati after Kali Puja. This was in 1896. On the day of her departure, Girish Ghosh came to bid her farewell. He did not utter a word, and with a serious countenance, he called for Yogananda and went directly to Holy Mother, who was then living in Sarkarbari Lane. We followed him. Full of emotion and deep reverence, he prostrated at the feet of Holy Mother and with folded hands said, "Mother, when I come to you, I feel that I am a little child coming to its own mother. Had I been a grown-up son, I would have served my mother." Had I been a grown-up son, I would have served my mother. In other words, he was childish. But it is quite the opposite. You serve us, and we do not serve you. You are going to Jairambati to serve the people, even by cooking food for others in that village kitchen. How can I serve you? And what do I know about the service of the Divine Mother? Girish's voice was choked, and his whole face was red with emotion. He said, "Mother, you know our minds, which we ourselves do not know. We cannot go to you. It is through your grace and kindness that you come here to see your children. Whenever you wish to come here, please do not hesitate for a moment. We, your children, will always be happy to see our mother and shall deem it a privilege to render you whatever service you will graciously allow us to offer." Girish then addressed us, who were standing behind him. It is difficult for human beings to believe that God may incarnate in human form like any of us. Do you realize that you are standing before the Mother of the universe in the form of a village woman? Can you imagine the Divine Mother doing all kinds of domestic work and fulfilling social duties like any ordinary woman? Yet she is the mother of the universe, appearing on earth for the salvation of all creatures, and at the same time exemplifying the ideal of true motherhood. His words made a deep impression on all present, and the whole atmosphere was charged with serene sublimity and calmness. Yes, it was then a veritable paradise, pervaded with spiritual bliss and benediction. We accompanied the mother to the railway station. She blessed us all as we touched her feet in salutation. So, Girish Ghosh, on more than one occasion, sang the praises of the mother to whoever was present. And then we'll hear of an occasion when he goes to Jairambati and she tells him the deep truth about herself. And he recognizes her as a goddess who came and saved his life when he was ill as a young man in his 20s. So this is our Girish Ghosh, the man who went from total reprobate, dissolute rogue to saint. The power of the divine. So Chetanananda goes on. Swami Bodhananda left a vivid account of Girish's visit to Jairambati in the early part of 1891, which is presented here in an abridged form. So this is Swami Bodhananda now. Our party consisted of Swami Niranjanananda, Swami Subodhananda, Girish, Kanai, later Swami Nirboyananda, Kali Krishna, later Swami Virajananda, and myself, the Swami Bodhananda. Girish also took a cook and a servant with him. After breakfast at Girish's house, we left for the Howrah railway station and reached the Burdwan station at noon. We had our lunch there and bought luchis, fried potatoes, halwa, and sweets for our supper, and some special sweets to offer to the master in Kamarpukur. Five bullock carts were hired, and we started our journey just before evening. We crossed the Damodar River, which was almost dry. After crossing the river by bullock cart, we finished our supper. At 10 p.m., we resumed our journey. Now, just as a reminder to people here in the West who don't understand why they're traveling this way at night, it's cool at night. It's very hot in the daytime in the blazing sun. So it's much more comfortable to travel at night. But imagine the pitch blackness. There were no street lights. There were no, it's just perfect blackness, except for whatever lanterns or lights they brought themselves. So at 10 p.m., we resumed our journey, but shortly after, the jerking motion of the cart upset Girish's stomach. We were then in the middle of a vast meadow. Swami Niranjanananda stopped all the carts and asked the drivers to unfasten the bullocks from the carts. Within an hour, Girish fell asleep, and in the morning, he felt normal. We resumed our journey and reached Uchalan, 16 miles from Burdwan, at 10 a.m. So from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m., They had covered 16 miles. Of course, they'd stopped for a good while to let Girish recover. We went to an inn and had lunch. After resting, we had tea. We again bought Luchi's fried potatoes and halwa for supper. The drivers drove the whole night, covering 14 miles from Uchalan to Kamarpukur. We arrived there at 9 a.m. and met Brother Ramlal and Sister Lakshmi, the master's nephew and niece. We took a bath in the Haldarpukur, had the prasad of Raghuvir, and that was if you remember, that was the family deity of Ramakrishna's family, Raghuvir, a form of Rama. So that worship, of course, continued in the home of the master where he grew up. And so that's why they had the prasad of Raghuvir and spent the night at Kamarpukur. The next morning, we left for Jairambati, which is 4 miles from Kamarpukur. Girish went by palanquin, since the bullock carts were upsetting his stomach. Girish went by palanquin, and the rest of us walked along along the mud road. Girish went by palanquin, and the rest of us walked along the mud road. We arrived at Jairambati at 11 a.m. Girish took a bath in the Talpukur and went to visit Holy Mother, wearing his wet cloth and carrying a mango in his hand. He fell flat on the courtyard and bowed down to the Mother. This scene is still vivid in my memory. I'm going to repeat that. He took a bath in the Talpukur and went to visit Holy Mother wearing his wet cloth and carrying a mango in his hand. He fell flat on the courtyard and bowed down to the Mother. This scene is still vivid in my memory. I had a great opportunity to associate closely with Girish in Jairambati. We stayed in the same room, we ate together, walked together, and talked freely. When he was in the mood, he would sing some devotional songs in praise of the Divine Mother. Because of the many guests in Jairambati, Holy Mother was extremely busy from morning till 11 p.m. From morning, and she got up at 3 or 4 in the morning, remember. Holy Mother was extremely busy from morning until 11 p.m., taking care of our food, sleeping arrangements, and so on. Although Girish's cook and servant worked, the mother had to supervise everything. It was not easy to get milk early in the morning in Jairambati, but the mother would go to the villagers and collect some milk so that we could have tea. We had breakfast with puffed rice, sandesh, and tea, and then after a bath, we had some prasad. Mother served lunch with 8 or 9 kinds of preparations. Imagine, 8 or 9 kinds of preparations. She was either cooking herself or supervising all of these different kinds of foods, as well as curd and sweets. In the afternoon, we had tea and snacks, and at supper, luchi, rice, vegetables, and sweets. Girish would listen to the dialect of the illiterate farmers and imitate their language. He considered hiring a farmer and bringing him to Calcutta to act in one of his plays. After staying for 2 weeks in Jairambati, everyone returned to Calcutta except for Swami Niranjanananda and Girish. The mother looked after us as her own children. I still remember that I rolled chapatis a few times and the mother baked them. It was her grace that I could be near her. Those are unforgettable memories. Swami Chetanananda, author of the book Holy Mother, supplied some more information about Girish and Holy Mother. After arriving at Jairambati, Girish took his bath. This is from Swami Chetanananda's book on Holy Mother. After arriving at Jairambati, Girish took his bath and bowed down to Holy Mother. His body was shaking with emotion. Casting his eyes upon her, he exclaimed with surprise, "Ah, you are that mother." He suddenly recalled a vivid dream of many years before when he had been bedridden from cholera. A luminous goddess wearing a red-bordered sari appeared to him and offered him some sacred prasad, which soon cured him. He now recognized Holy Mother as that deity and felt that she had always been looking after him as his guardian angel. To verify this, Girish asked her, now this is the story that I was telling you we'd get to. To verify this, Girish asked her, "What kind of mother are you?" Immediately, Holy Mother replied, "Your real mother, not just the wife of your guru, not a foster mother, nor a vague sort of mother, your real mother." The thing that I underline always is that this just doesn't apply to Girish, and it just does not apply to then. It applies to us now. So I'm going to read that again, what she said to him when he asked, "What kind of mother are you?" Girish asked her, "What kind of mother are you?" Immediately, Holy Mother replied, "Your real mother, not just the wife of your guru, not a foster mother, not a vague sort of mother, your real mother." Girish spent a happy and carefree time in Jairambati, wandering about freely with the villagers in the meadows and drinking in the beauty of the sunset in the open fields. Soon his name spread throughout the area, and he would sing now and then to entertain the villagers. One day, Holy Mother heard Girish singing this song for the villagers. Later, she sang the song herself in a soft voice. Now, this is unusual. Mother didn't sing much. She didn't perform. So this obviously made a deep impression on her. And so he sang the song for the villagers. Later, she sang the song herself in a soft voice. Gopala crawls away from the queen, lest she, Gopala crawls away from the queen, lest she should catch hold of him. He casts at her a furtive glance as she eagerly cries, "Stop, stop." Gopala crawls farther away. Now this is about Yashoda, of course. So Gopala, the baby Krishna. One, as she eagerly cries, "Stop, stop," Gopala crawls farther away. One day at Jairambati, Girish had a heated discussion with Holy Mother's brother, Kali Kumar, regarding whether Holy Mother was an ordinary human being or a goddess. Kali Kumar naturally regarded her as his sister and said, "It is you who call her the Divine Mother or the Mother of the universe, but we were born from the same womb. I do not understand what you say." "What are you talking about?" replied Girish firmly. You are the son of an ordinary Brahmin, born and reared in a village. You have forgotten. Haha. "What are you talking about?" replied Girish firmly. You are the son of an ordinary Brahmin, born and reared in a village. You have forgotten the duties of your caste, such as worship and study, and are now living as a farmer. If a man promises you a bullock for your plow, you will run after him for at least 6 months. It is not possible for Mahamaya, who can make the impossible possible, to appear as, is it not possible for Mahamaya, who can make the impossible possible, to appear as your sister and hoodwink you for the rest of your life? Listen to me. If you want liberation in this life or afterwards, go immediately to the mother and take refuge at her feet. I urge you to go at once. Now, this is our Girish. You know, he was completely sincere in every instance. This is what, if you remember, he's the one, when we celebrate the Kalpataru Day, it was Girish who started it all by his sincere reply, sincere and heartfelt reply to Sri Ramakrishna's question. Why do you say all of these things about me? What is it that you say about me? So this is Girish talking to Holy Mother's brother, Kali Kumar. I urge you to go at once. Take refuge at her feet. Such was the power conveyed in Girish's words that Kali Kumar immediately went to Holy Mother and clutched her feet, begging for her grace. She said, Kali, what are you doing? I am your sister. What are you saying? Kali Kumar returned to Girish the same person he was before. In other words, he remained hoodwinked, as Girish said. It wasn't meant to be otherwise. Girish asked him to go back, but he would not. Girish once remarked that Holy Mother's brothers must have performed bone-breaking austerities in a previous life to have obtained her as their sister. So before we go on, we're about to start another section. It's a little bit before the half hour. Any comments or questions or anything to say about what we've read so far? So because this is your opportunity to participate in this. Please be coming. Yes, Sham.
Brother Shankara, yeah. What I want to ask you is what did Girish give up his drinking during Ramakrishna's time, or was it afterwards?
No, it was during Sri Ramakrishna's time. He began, what happened was, you can read about this in the gospel. What happened was, he gave his power of attorney to the master.
Yeah.
That was, the master was giving him spiritual instructions, and Girish was saying to each instruction, he was saying, oh no, I can't do that. My life is too disorganized. I get up too late in the morning. I have too many things to do. I'm constantly distracted. And so finally the master, not in the least exasperated by all this, as we know, the master could see into anyone, as he said, like seeing into those cases where dishes are displayed that have a glass front. He said, I can see into people like that. So he wasn't the least exasperated by Girish's protestations and say. So finally he said, well then, give me your power of attorney. And Girish, vastly relieved and not really thinking it through, said, oh yes, take it, take my power of attorney. So then what happened is the master took control of his life. Not in an overt way, the Lord never does this, but in persuasive ways. For example, when Girish would take a glass of wine. When he would tip the glass up, he would see the master's face, alive, not a still image. He would see the master's living face in the bottom of the glass. And the wine would not get him drunk. It would get him pleasantly stimulated, but he didn't get drunk. And so this is where the master said, I give you no ordinary wine. And so ultimately Girish stopped drinking. There wasn't any need. He had the bliss of the master's presence. And so if you read the last few months of the master's life, where he's being visited regularly by Dr. Sarkar, Girish plays a very, very important role in those few months, and is there to tease Dr. Sarkar. You know, Dr. Sarkar is so full of himself and so on, and Sri Ramakrishna, but Sri Ramakrishna is bound and determined to make a devotee of him, not a disciple, but a devotee, someone who could attain liberation. And you can see Girish playing a very instrumental role in this, as did Narendra, later Swami Vivekananda, that Narendra. So it's very interesting how Girish's life played out in the last year of the master's life. Good question, Sham. Yeah, good.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Anything?
What are luchis, Brother Shankara?
Yes, Catherine.
What are luchis?
Oh, luchi, it's a kind of bread. It's a kind of flat bread. Somebody else tell her exactly what a luchi is.
You fry them.
It's a puri actually.
It's a fried bread.
Yeah, that's a puri, we call it puri.
So
Other-
luchi puri, the master was very fond of them. And was one time, I'll tell you a funny instance, when the master was still alive and living at Dakshineshwar, and the boys were coming to see him, these boys that would later become his intimate disciples, his inner circle of disciples. And mother was preparing food for them. And the master said, how many luchis are you giving them? And the mother said, why do you ask? Oh, give them only 3, the master said. Oh, they can have only 3. And she very tartly replied, I'll give them as many as I like. And he just was quiet after that. And she did. She fed them, he was trying to make immediate renunciates of them, austerities and all that. And the mother wasn't having any. So she fed them as much of that beautiful, I'm sure that the fried bread, the luchis that she made were just absolutely delicious. Anything else from anyone?
Well, also I wanted to know what sandesh is.
Sandesh is a kind of very delicious, smooth candy. It's the closest association that I can think of, if you know that the word, it's often made for Christmas, divinity. Do you know divinity? It's kind of like...
Yes, I do, yes.
Okay, well, it's kind of like divinity. Or divinity is kind of like sandesh. It's a kind of very, very well prepared. It's one of the most delicious candies you'll ever have, just like well prepared divinity is one of the most delicious candies you'll have. My grandmother, my mother's mother, was an absolute mistress of making candies and made the most delicious divinity.
Just one more question.
Yes.
That last sentence about Holy Mother's brothers having performed bone-breaking austerities, could you explain the meaning of that to me, please?
Well, this is Girish. What he's saying is that the souls who were incarnated as Holy Mother's brothers, to have earned the right to be born as her brothers in this lifetime, to have the grace of being a brother of the Mother of the universe, they must have done some very, very severe austerities. Now, these austerities, there's all kinds of them, going without food for a long time, periods of time, standing on one leg. There's all kinds of peculiar austerities that would be called bone-breaking austerities. Anybody else have anything to say about what kind of austerities those might have been? Anyway, severe austerity, severe penances that earned them the right to be born to that family. That's what he's saying.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
I may be mistaken, but I vaguely recall that in Gospel somewhere it says that because of Sri Ramakrishna, 7 generations of his family would be liberated, something like that.
Well, this is something that is said of anyone who attains moksha or liberation. It is said that 7 generations before they were born and 7 generations after they were born, 7 later generations would also be liberated. Now, this is, I have no independent knowledge of that. It's just something I've read, heard. Swami Prabhavananda didn't dispute it. Let's just put it that way. I didn't bring it up to him, but others did, and he didn't. So it wasn't just Sri Ramakrishna, but it's said of anyone who attains liberation that 7 generations. So proactively and post their own birth, after their own birth, 7 generations. So
Thank you.
you can look it up. I'm sure it's in the Puranas somewhere.
Okay. Thank you.
The thing to do is ask a priest about it. Ask Dr. Mudge about it.
Okay.
He might well have more information about that.
Okay.
Thank you, Swayam.
Namaste, everybody.
Oh, hello there, Shailesh.
Hi. I would like to share something which this issue has been coming up in the class, and I just thought I would share an experience. The purpose is just to just everyone let know that this inspire each other, and just to share it. So like Brother Shankara, you said that the relationship with Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother is eternal, and they are our real parents.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very close to my parents, my biological mother and father, and they are still in good health, and I'm very attached to them. So this happened about 14-15 years ago, that I started feeling that it might be I felt that it was kind of a impediment. So what happened was one night I had this amazing dream, and this dream was that I'm lying on a bed. I'm watching myself lying on a bed and dying, and then I'm reborn again, and I'm dying again, and reborn and dying, and it went on for a very long time. And I'm watching that, and then suddenly I realized that there is someone standing next to me watching that. And I realized it is Sri Ramakrishna. And then I realized there is one more person who is standing next to Sri Ramakrishna, and that is Holy Mother.
Mm.
And then Sri Ramakrishna looked at me and he said, all these lives when you were being born and dying, we have been your parents. And it was, and then I suddenly woke up. But what happened was that after that dream, something like, a knot was released where that attachment went away. Though I have still immense love for my parents, but that attachment just gone. It was gone. And there are two more people who had some similar experience, my friends, when I was sharing this. They are in the order now, but I think a lot of people have this experience.
Beautiful. What a wonderful gift. What a wonderful gift. And as you say, it resulted in a change in behavior. So it was very much, as you say, a knot was cut and attachment was released. This is the true test of any spiritual experience. Beautiful, Shailesh. Beautiful. May we all be so blessed. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else?
Shankara ji, this is Balakrishna.
Yes, Bala.
The Shailesh, experience is so wonderful. In the Great Master, it says that if you spend time with your incarnation, you fulfill 10 lives in that one life. So I guess this is why he must have seen, born and death in his dream. It is such an experience.
Yes, I've heard this before also, that being with a realized soul or an incarnation, lives speed by.
Yes.
So yes. It was said of Swami Prabhavananda that many of his disciples, and well, I guess it was pretty much always his disciples, would walk with him. And at the end of the walk, he would give us this kind of blessing. He would take these 3 fingers and push them on our foreheads. And it was said by someone who was in a position to know, one of the senior nuns, that this was, in her words, knocking off lifetime after lifetime. So that was the way she put it. Her name was Yoga Prana. She was a remarkable nun. And she just said one afternoon, you know what happens when he does that? She said, he's knocking off lifetime after lifetime. So.
The other thing is, the transformation of Girish is so amazing. When in the beginning, he was hesitant even to, when Sri Ramakrishna asked him, just pray God in the morning and evening, he could not even say yes or no because he knew his mind that he cannot do it.
Yes.
From there, he comes to this, to the mother. It is such an amazing thing because even after, Ramakrishna left, because of his power, when his wife and the son died, he says, okay, my guru is doing something good for me. That was his sense.
Yes. Thank you for all of that, Paula. That was beautiful. Yes, what we're going to hear about now, the title of the next section is Girish's relationship with Holy Mother. So we've heard bits and pieces of it. Now Chetanananda is going to take us through a description. Is there anything else before we go on? Okay. Holy Mother usually wore a veil when she was with the monastic disciples and male devotees of the Master, except for Swamis Adbhutananda and Advaitananda and a few others. When Girish, these men were older, Adbhutananda and Advaitananda, and a few others, like Yogananda and so on. When Girish ate his lunch at Jairambati, Holy Mother would say to him from behind her veil, "My son, please have a little more rice. You will feel hungry if you eat such a small amount of food." Girish was overwhelmed by Holy Mother's affection. Observing her shyness and unwillingness to talk to her male devotees, Girish once told her, "Mother, the master has become can someone say that word, please?
Chabi.
Chabi, a picture. Master has become a chabi, a picture, and you have become a
Bhauma.
bauma, a bashful bride. A bauma, a bashful bride who wears a long veil." Girish meant that people now see the master only in a photograph, so Holy Mother should not maintain such a distance from and formality with her children. Girish later recalled his days in Jairambati. "What infinite affection did I see in the mother. She was my real mother. She kept her vigilant eyes on every minute detail. One day in Jairambati, I saw the mother going to the pond with a piece of soap, a bed sheet, and a pillow cover. When I went to bed that night, I found that my pillow cover and bed sheet had been beautifully washed. Tears trickle from my eyes when I think of her affection." And of course, if Girish said that, you know it's the absolute truth. So she, the mother of the universe, washed Girish's bedclothes. Because of the bereavement he had suffered, Girish realized the emptiness of family life. During his visit to Jairambati, he approached Holy Mother several times for her permission to embrace the monastic life. She would not give her consent, instead suggesting that he continue his literary and acting careers. Girish at last gave up the idea of becoming a monk. Shortly after this, Girish took the opportunity to spend a few days in Kamarpukur, and Holy Mother joined his group. His long association with Holy Mother and his visits to the sacred places of Jairambati and Kamarpukur finally brought solace to Girish's broken heart. He'd lost his wife and his son that only lived until age 3. He returned to Calcutta and resumed his acting career with fresh vigor and a clearer spiritual outlook. Girish often visited Holy Mother when she was in Calcutta. Once Holy Mother was returning from a long stay in Jairambati. Swamis Brahmananda and Premananda went to Howrah station to receive her. Now, these were the two at that time. These were the two principal Swamis of the Ramakrishna order at Belrumat. Saradananda lived in Calcutta at the Udbodhan office, but it was Brahmananda was the president of the order, and Premananda who actually ran Belrumat at that time. He would now be called the manager Swami, but in those days, I don't think they used that kind of title. Anyway, Brahmananda and Premananda went to Howrah station to receive her. Though the train was 3 hours late, the Swamis and her devotees waited. When the train finally arrived, Yoginma and Golipma helped Mother out of the train, and the Swamis rushed to take the dust of her feet. Golipma was Holy Mother's guard and caretaker. In her high-pitched voice and brusque manner, she scolded Swami Brahmananda. "Maharaj, have you no sense whatsoever? The mother has just gotten off the train, tired and exhausted from the heat. If you make such a fuss about prostrating, how can I restrain the others?" The venerable Swamis were embarrassed and stepped back. She was a character, that one. Holy Mother was driven to Udbodhan house in a carriage, and she went upstairs to rest. A little later, Brahmananda and Premananda decided to go to Udbodhan house, a little later, Brahmananda and Premananda decided to go to Udbodhan house to confirm that proper arrangements had been made. Girish arrived soon after and asked them about Holy Mother. When Golap Ma heard Girish's voice, she came downstairs and said to him, "My words beat a retreat, Girish Babu, before your grotesque devotion. You have come to see Mother. She is exhausted." I'm going to repeat that. This is eloquence, isn't it? Golap Ma heard Girish's voice. She came downstairs and said to him, "My words beat a retreat, Girish Babu, before your grotesque devotion. You have come to see Mother. She is exhausted. She is supposed to have some rest now, but you have come to disturb her." And Girish was a match for her. Girish retorted, "You are a boisterous woman. I had thought that the mother's heart would be soothed by seeing her children's faces." Girish retorted, "You are a boisterous woman. I had thought that the mother's heart would be soothed by seeing her children's faces after such a long time. Yet this woman is teaching me devotion to the mother." Phew. Girish and Brahmananda and Premananda went upstairs to pay their respects to Holy Mother. As they bowed down to her, she blessed them. Girish's love and devotion overruled Golap Ma's decrees. After Girish had left, full of joy, Golap Ma complained to Holy Mother about his rudeness. Holy Mother replied, "I have warned you many times about criticizing my children." And she did. I mean, Mother was sometimes very sharp with her because Golap Ma would be judgmental. And so Mother said to her, "I have warned you many times about criticizing my children." In 1907, now let me just remind you, the mother left the body in 1920. So this was a full 13 years before the mother left them. In 1907, Girish decided to perform Durga Puja at his home. He and his sister, Dakshina, wanted Holy Mother to be present for the occasion. However, Holy Mother was then at Jairambati and had been suffering intermittently from malaria fever. Swami Saradananda wrote to Holy Mother about Girish's wish. Now, this is how seriously Girish was taken. He had become a saint by this time. And so his wish was significant. Swami Saradananda wrote to Holy Mother about Girish's wish that she attend Durga Puja, and the gracious mother agreed to come to Calcutta. At that time, there were riots in Calcutta, and there was a blackout at night in the city. M. Mahendranath Gupta and Lalit Chattopadhyay, is that right?
Yeah. Lalit.
Left Calcutta and went to the Vishnupur railway station, where they waited for Holy Mother, who had traveled by bullock cart. When she arrived, they accompanied her by train to Howrah station, arriving after dark. Holy Mother, accompanied by Radu and her mother, got into Lalit's waiting carriage. M. Lalit and some devotees escorted them, sitting on top of the carriage or standing on the footboard. In other words, to protect her from any disturbance that might happen because of the riots. Holy Mother stayed with, she went to Balaram's house. Holy Mother stayed with Balaram's family close to Girish's house. Durga Puja began a few days after they arrived, and it continued for 4 days. Holy Mother attended the puja at Girish's house from beginning to end, 4 days. Now, she had come from Jairambati especially for the purpose. Mother's health was not good much of her life. So she'd been suffering from malaria, fever intermittently, and so on. So it was a strain on her. She was always delicate. The puja continued for 4 days. Holy Mother attended the puja at Girish's house from beginning to end. In addition, many devotees came to Balaram's house to pay their respects to her. Despite her poor health, she sat for hours to fulfill her devotees' wishes. Despite her poor health, she sat for hours to fulfill her devotees' wishes. Thus, 2 days passed. It was decided that Holy Mother should rest and not attend the Sandhi Puja, which takes place between the Ashtami and Navami Pujas, the second and third days of the worship. The time for this special ceremony happened to fall at midnight that year. Girish was upset when he heard this, and he decided to stay in his room while the worship was going on. However, when the time for the Sandhi Puja came, you may remember the Sandhi Puja is the time that for a certain number of minutes, everyone chants Jai Shri Durga. It's part of the ritual and so on. When the time came for the Sandhi Puja, Holy Mother changed her mind. She covered herself with a chadar, walked through the narrow lane, and knocked at the back door of Girish's house, saying, "I have come." Girish's maidservant opened the door, and news of Holy Mother's arrival quickly spread. Girish hurriedly went to the worship hall, bowed down to the Holy Mother, and joyfully remarked, I thought that my worship of the Divine Mother would be incomplete. Meanwhile, the mother has tapped on the door and announced, "Here, I have come." In other words, the mother, he was identifying her as the mother he was worshiping. Meanwhile, the mother has tapped on the door and announced, "Here, I have come." Thus, after 4 days of worship and Holy Mother's presence, Girish felt that Mother Durga had graciously accepted his worship. On that auspicious occasion, Girish invited his friends and relatives, as well as the actors and actresses of his theater, who all received Holy Mother's blessings. And particularly some of those actresses, this transformed their lives. And they would come in the later years of Mother's life, and then even after she passed away, they would come to Brahmananda at Belrumat. And also when he was staying at Balaram's house, he often stayed at Balaram's house. And so it was a great, great blessing. So there's just a few minutes before 9. We're about to start another section, Holy Mother and the Theater. So is there anything that anyone would like to ask or say about what we've read about Girish and the Mother and this Durga Puja and all of this graciousness of the mother, even though she was not well. Anything at all from anyone?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, Swaya.
did Golap Ma have any spiritual experiences, or what? What
Oh,
was?
yes. Oh, yes. You can read about her life. She had powerful experiences with the master. It is said that she and the other Yogin Ma and others, they were gopis. They were gopis during the Rasa Leela of Krishna and Radha. And they had asked for special dispensation to be born. Though they had been liberated, they had asked for special dispensation to be born with mother, who was also Radha, of course. She affirmed that herself. Holy Mother affirmed that. So yes, Golap Ma had powerful experiences with the master and also with the mother when they went to various pilgrimage places together. You can read about her life. I forget who it was who wrote the life. It was a Westerner who wrote a life in English of not just Golap, but these gopis that came as mother's attendants and companions in this lifetime.
So was Golap her real name, actual name, or was it Gopal turned around?
I don't know the answer to that question. I think that name was given to her by the master, but I don't remember specifically. She used to live in a village near Dakshineshwar and would come often to see the master. And this was when she was quite young. And as I say, the details of her life are escaping me. Many of these things I read 30 and 40 years ago, so the details have slipped away. But definitely Golap Ma was, just because the mother scolded her, she loved her dearly, and she and the mother were very close, as Golap Ma was with the master.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All the stories are in they lived with God. There
Mm-hmm.
was a story about Golap Ma, and
No,
she
there's-
used to have visions of Gopala as a small Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
And also, she used to treat Ramakrishna as Gopala.
Yes, she would feed him as Gopala. I
Yes.
remember that now that you mention it. She would feed him with her hand.
Yes.
Thank you for that, Balakrishna. Yes. Name the book again.
This is They Lived with God.
Yeah. There's they lived with God, and then God lived with them. The one is about these.
God lived with them is all these his disciples.
Yes.
These are the householder devotees and all those things. The
Right.
book is They Lived with God.
Yes. Okay. So there's two books. They lived with God, and God lived with them.
Yes.
Both very much worth your attention if you want more details about all of these people who surrounded the master closely. The so-called inner circle. Those, though, not all of them were present during the last days at Kashipur. Anything more? Thank you, Balakrishna. I'm so glad you have these things at hand. Bala's read these things more recently in the last few years.
I'm struggling still, Shankaraji,
Well,
trying to read.
yes, well, you're obviously doing well. You have that characteristic of the devotee, the retentive memory.
Actually, They Lived with God is about all the lay disciples, and Gopal Ma, Golap Ma, and other devotees come in, and that's more interesting, I found, than God lived with them which is the direct disciples. All these are monks and way up there, but all the lay devotees, it's more interesting.
Well, it's easier for us to identify
Exactly.
with.
Yeah, that's what I found out.
Yeah. And they're all just absolutely fascinating people.
Yeah.
They're just fascinating people. Ram, and all of these, they're really.
I personally believe, and it's also part of my spiritual practice, that all these people, even Golap Ma, she seems very stern, but these were all extraordinary people, and it's just being human. They were just playing their part. It's very nice to read, and that's actually attracts me more. And sometimes it's part of my spiritual practice that I bow down to all these lay disciples also, including Girish and including Golap Ma, Gopal Ma, and
anyone who was that close to the master deserves our reverence. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even there's someone who said me, I think it's one of my friends now, who said that now he's a monk, and he said that, Shailesh, even anyone who even saw Sri Ramakrishna even once, they had some kind of extraordinary something in them, some punya karma they did in their previous life. Because his physical form, it's the more, and this is everybody's experience, that more we practice that image, it is extraordinary.
Yes, it's said of the master's visits to the Panihati festival that whoever his glance fell on would attain liberation.
Yeah.
And there were thousands at those festivals. So, so the master would come, and of course that made a stir, and so on. But when an incarnation of God is physically present, it's something. But that doesn't mean this is something for us to keep so firmly in mind. The master has not gone anywhere. This is what he told Holy Mother. Why are you acting like a widow? I've not gone anywhere. I'm just behind the curtain. I'm just in the next room. And that's what he said, that for the 200 years after his death, he would remain in his subtle body and be available to us. This is why it says in the evening hymn, easy of access to us. Easy of access to us. So what do we do? Fill this heart full of love for thee. And it says, fill our hearts, it says in the evening prayer, fill our hearts full of love for thee. If we take refuge in the Master and ask, fill our heart, fill my heart full of love for thee, we have these experiences of the Master. Thank you, Shailesh. That was very nicely put.
Brother Shankara?
Yes.
I just wanted to mention that those two books are available to read on Kindle Unlimited for those who have Kindle Unlimited.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you, dear.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So those of you who have Kindle, I don't know what Kindle Unlimited is. I guess it's something that you purchase a sort of a pass to. Is that right, Catherine? What's Kindle Unlimited?
I believe it's a monthly subscription.
That's see.
My understanding of it. You pay a fee every month and you can loan so many books
Oh,
month
right,
for
right,
free. I
right,
think
right.
it's 10 books.
Yeah, and if you're part of Amazon Prime, something like that comes with that too. There's all kinds of books that you can, so to speak, borrow from.
Right. I don't know if it's through Amazon Prime that you can borrow them, because I have the Kindle Unlimited, the Kindle
Yeah, well, I'm saying it
subscription.
also. I think it's also. I have that. I have Amazon Prime.
Okay.
I've gotten books through that. They're in my
Okay.
library. All right, dears. Is there anything else?
I was just going to ask or say that, so we came to the center and became connected with the order after being through so many different other places, long circuitous route. And being from southern India and grew up in Maharashtra, I never somehow got exposed to Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, Vivekananda a little bit, but we didn't know much at all about Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. So could we take some solace that maybe we were remotely connected to him in our previous birth, that he chose us, or he led us to him?
Yes, yes. How else could it happen? How else could it possibly happen? You must think this. Yes, the grace is absolutely unconditional. That you found your way to Thakur Ma, and so we have no idea. And it's better that we not know all these details about our past lives. But certainly something. You looked here, as you say. You looked here. You looked there. No, this isn't it. This isn't it. And then bingo, and so, yes, the master is somehow present to you from God knows how. We don't, I certainly don't pretend to understand these things, but something is there. Otherwise, you would not be connected in this way. The master draws us to him, as is said, by Swami Prabhupada used to say. And this is not just him; it's a so to speak saying in the order. The master does his own preaching and draws us to him, and we're so glad, dear. We're so glad that you're such an enthusiastic and determined student.
It's still a long way to go, but we're so glad, feel blessed to be part of this.
Amen. Don't we all? If we have our wits about us, we feel blessed. No two ways about it.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. Oh, beloved Mother of the Universe, on this your special day of the week, we are so deeply, deeply honored to have been in your presence as we read about you, knowing that you are with us, knowing that you are comforting us, knowing that you are guiding us. May this all be rooted deeply in our hearts. May we understand it in the core of our being, that you are our mother, our real mother. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Shri Sarada Devi Jai Ma. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. So good night, beloved ones.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. Go in Mother Durga's loving and protective embrace. So until
Good night.
next time,
See you tomorrow, Brother Shankara.
see you tomorrow,
night.
weather willing.
Bye.
Bye-bye all.
Bye bye.
Good night.
Good night.